Anyways, Last 33 podcast, first episode of 2024. And of course, we're back with Scott Ritchie. Scott, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. Happy 2024, Jake. New year, new you.
Yeah, it's one of those deals. I've always not been a fan of New Year's resolutions because New Year's resolution, if you're doing one every single year, you're basically just admitting that you have an idea and then it fades out throughout the year and then you have to reset. So I started doing this thing, Jocko Willink. You ever heard of him?
I have, yeah.
He's been on Joe Rogan a couple times. He's a retired Navy SEAL, motivational speaker, owns a couple companies. He's gotten big into he has, protein, energy drinks, like super greens, things like that. And he does leadership for companies. He'll do
public speaking for that kind of stuff.
But he and his team did this program called the Def Reset, where it's basically 8 habits that they want you to. It's like a 4-week program where they send you videos each week, and then part of it's what time you're going to wake up every day. Are you going to hydrate? What are you going to eat all week? What kind of content are you going to
Speaking of,
yeah, exactly. What kind of content are you going to take in? And then some of it's around working out, obviously.
Yeah,
that's obviously the big.
His main thing is not main thing, but I think he's one of the guys that kind of centers around that. It's all about betterment. Exactly. Self-improvement, and he sees that as you got to mentally improve, you got to phically improve, and they go hand in hand.
It's called the Def Reset. Def, DEF, discipline equals freedom. Pretty sure he had a book called Discipline Equals Freedom, and then he had extreme ownership, that sort of thing. So you write down with each of the 8, you write down what you're going to do that week, and then there's a checklist if you did each thing each day. So for 2024, for me, the first week was to get used to waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning. I did it 3 of the 5 work days last week, and I was dragging ass. Had a night on Saturday night where stayed up till 5 a.m.
Okay.
And had been drinking beer, had a couple vodka Red Bulls, decided at 3:30 a.m. that a glass of straight whiskey was a great idea. So, haven't woken up at 5 a.m. yet this week. It's currently Tuesday. Plan is to wake up at 5 tomorrow, get back after it. But the grand scheme of things for me was to get the sleep schedule right week 1, podcast every week 2, and then each day do some sort of organizational task. Clean my room, clean my truck, organize my nightstand when that nightstand gets cluttered up, and then 1 content-related task each day. So starting this week. So whether that's record a podcast, shoot a video, edit.
Yeah.
Plan something out.
I was going to say at least plan some topics and things like that.
Or reach out, try to get a guest on, something like that, which we have some things coming there. So that's what my New Year's looked like so far.
That's good, dude. I get that with the whole New Year's resolution thing. It gets a negative connotation because it's one of those things why do you need the New Year changing for this to change? For you to change this, in yourself. You should probably just start on any day. Why not the end of every month? Why can't that be, the time you decide to do it? You decide to change something. The end of every week, whatever. I outsmarted the system. I started working out about 2 weeks before the New Year's.
That's how you do it. You got to warm up.
and then I'm leaving the gym like we just talked about. I'm doing hot work, so I'm not throwing up big boy weight or anything. It's a lot of plyometrics and stuff in 125 degree sauna. So I'm a sauna boy now. Nice. After all the Rogan pictures of him, burning up in a sauna for 90 minutes or whatever.
You're just at your most vulnerable, and everything gets so clear, and you're just so thankful and grateful whenever you're in the sauna.
Yeah.
And you fight through those last 5 minutes, and it's so hard, and then once you're done, you're just you're so nice, and I'm just so happy and grateful.
Yeah.
Is that true, what Rogan says about the sauna?
I can't say. He just sits in there.
Yeah. He 30 minutes.
Yeah, he sits in there for a long time. I'm in there for either 15, 30 minutes, but I'm doing something. I'm doing the workout that's on the video. Yeah. So I can't say I'm sitting there thinking about my best self and all that as much. But afterwards, you do feel good to that level.
Well, it just feels good to sweat.
Oh, dude, especially with the cold, where you walk out of there and that cold hits you. It just reminds me of playing basketball growing up. being in that like hot gym.
Yeah.
You know, during like winter practices or games or something, and then you walk out.
Oh, it's
and it's
freezing.
It all hits you.
Yeah, anytime I'm in the sauna, my gym just got a new one. It used to be a little three-man one, and I would never want to get in because there's always someone in there, and you have to like literally just stand hip to hip with them.
Yeah.
Or sit hip to hip. Now it's a big one that you'd see at like Vasa or something like that. I go to 4-Star Fitness on May here in Oklahoma City, but you would think that, it's going to feel so good. The 30-degree weather outside is going to feel so good when I get out here because I'm so hot. But you get out there and you're even colder than you would have been if you did
like
sit in
the sweat's sitting on you and like that's there to cool you down. And
and I listened to a Rogan podcast recently. I forget who it was with, but the sauna. Like your body's attempting to cool itself down. So when you go out into the cold, your body's still in the mode of trying to cool itself down. And then you're just freezing ass cold.
Yeah. Which happened to me today, leaving. But it felt good, and it was like a 20-foot walk to the car, so it was fun.
So
but it's been good.
Got through it.
You know, it's probably not it's not as cool as throwing up big boy weight, but as we were talking about before the podcast, I just don't know how to throw up weight. I just never really learned. Vasa and all those places are pretty intimidating and they're crowded, and this is working for me for now. And if anything, like talking about building habits, I'm going, consistently. And for now,
like check that off the list.
Yeah, for now, I mean, that's like you're waking up at 5 a.m. Like I'm going and I'm working out after work and stuff. So it's great for now, and we'll see where it goes. But it was funny. So we signed up. Me and my fiance signed up a couple weeks before New Year's, and then not intentionally before New Year's trying to get ahead of the resolution stuff, but just you decided to. And then we're leaving the other day, and they have like this big wheel you can spin, and I was like, oh, what's that? And they were saying, oh, this is for new members at the New Year. It's like a it's a little promotion. And I'm like, well, shit. I just joined 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it was like free enrollment, free month.
You're a veteran now, though. You started 2 weeks early.
I just get to look down on all of them now. But
no, I like that you started early because, like, if you're viewing, a fresh start, and you're doing that forever, you kind of got to warm up because you can't a marathon runner is not just going to wake up out of bed and then just start running the marathon. You got to stretch. You got to warm up a little bit so that when the New Year's crowd hits, you're like, oh, look at these newbies coming in.
Exactly. But the good thing about this place is like you're basically alone. Like I guess during COVID you couldn't book a sauna the same time as someone else. All of them can fit. All of them can. Weird. Yeah, all of them can fit 3. But during COVID you couldn't be. There couldn't be more than 1. So it's like an unwritten rule that if you see someone is booked for that time, you just don't book it.
Right.
So I mean, there might be 2 open spots, but you're just that.
So ever since COVID, that's kind of the thing.
That's what my fiance told me.
Like it never really bounced back from that.
No,
it never got back to normal.
But it's 24/7, so it's like they have enough slots, and they've got like 12 saunas in there doing different classes and stuff. So
I like it.
It makes sense, but it's been good. But yeah, this was a big New Year for me because I started working out. That's just a good thing to do. But at the same time, got a promotion at the end of the year.
Okay.
So kind of started. Yeah, so I got a promotion back in June, and then got another one here going into December.
Nice.
That started at the New Year. So not changing too drastically.
The vibes are high.
Yeah, from what I'm currently doing, it's just more specific. And
okay.
I'm being purposefully coy about it,
right.
not trying to get into the specifics of where I work and everything.
Yeah. But and what's your address?
Yeah,
Social Security number.
We're there currently right now.
Yeah.
But for those watching and not just listening, we're in kind of my office, my man cave.
Every guy's got to have one.
So we've got some. It's where I get to put up what I want to put up, and I don't have to really worry about being aesthetically pleasing. So we've got a little putting green in front of us. We got my computer over here. I've got this beautiful blown up picture of me going across Boone Pickens Stadium, straddling a goalpost back in 2011.
It's awesome.
After the Bedlam win, and then some other cool little pieces. So. It's a little different than our normal setup, but we got the OSU game going on too, and
so let's not get started on Oklahoma State basketball.
No.
I was gonna kind of add to that thought about the man cave. I'm in the very preliminary discussions about potentially living at the same household as my current girlfriend.
If you need advice, man, we've lived together. We got engaged last March, so we've lived together since December of 2021. Is that right? So all of 22, all of 23. Yeah. So all of 22, all of 23, and we got engaged March of 23. So we were together. It'll be 4 years this February. We were together around 2 years before she moved in. And
right. Yeah. So we're at the point where it's probably going to happen. So we're past the point of like, oh, are they going to, you know? So we're at the point to where if you see like a cool idea for like what a living room, like a decoration for a living room, or I want this kind of kitchen. Like our first house probably going to be a rental house, just because you got some things to get in line. You know, we've got. I don't really want to say exactly what we all do for a living, but we're getting our feet on the ground here in Oklahoma. It's getting our careers ramped up. But we talked about a potential like game room and a place where I kind of want to do the podcast.
Yeah. And
I had Bing AI generator kind of generate some ideas that I had in mind that I actually really liked. She shot them down, saying it looks too frat boy-y, whatever. It needs to look more classy. But what I said was, it feels to me like the female is in charge of, you know, the majority of the house, like the overall design, the overall feel, kitchen, living room, aesthetic, decorations. Yeah. And every guy I know, it feels like has their either a garage, a shop, a game room, a man cave, an office, something that's just them. And there was no say from the wife, the girlfriend, the fiance. That's just the guy's room. It's either decked out in their favorite sports team, or like a poker table right in the middle of it with a mini fridge with deer antlers on the wall, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's where you put up your, the buck you got last spring.
I'm currently in the process of negotiating, kind of fighting that battle, making sure that I get my space. I get my podcast, game watching, office, editing room, all in one. That's kind of what I'm going for.
Yeah, and this worked out well for us because this is a 3-bedroom house. We got our master, and then we each have an office.
Okay, that's awesome.
You know, where her office, she doesn't have as much of this kind of stuff around.
Right.
But like you said, it's because they kind of have the rest of the house. And I think that's the way it should be. Mm-hmm. I think guys, at least as a general population, are just more function over form,
right?
Which is very college, very frat boy. You're sitting on a director's chair from OSU homecoming that was given to my father when he was
cool
when he was like one of the judges.
It's an elite man cave piece.
It is, and we got golf clubs in here. We got a little entertainment center and a Amazon desk, and some Walmart, cube furniture. So. It's just all functional.
Yes, exactly.
It's not supposed to.
Nothing's for show.
No, it's not supposed to walk.
This is cool and it looks cool, but it's also very for exactly what we're doing right now. It's very functional.
Yeah, it is.
It is functioning right now.
When someone else comes into here, we're doing wedding planning up here and stuff. So when she's up here, she has a seat, but it's not, a piece from Pottery Barn or something like that takes up a lot of space. It kind of fits in here over in the corner, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
So I think it's better that way. Guys' taste, isn't as great.
Yeah.
And so
for like company and whatnot.
Yeah, because you walk into a place, you immediately know that the wife, the girlfriend, the fiance, or whatever designed it or picked the stuff out, and the guy needs input on that. Like some stuff is just silly to have, like some of those lines at like Target and stuff are just absurdly expensive for some pretty normal looking stuff.
Right.
So, you draw a line in the sand. But yeah, you need them to kind of steer you into like, can we have people over here? And they don't just think 4 dudes live here.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like whenever I'm thinking of like the most badass game room or like living room in general, I'm thinking comfort. We're all sitting there on a Sunday watching the game. There's a fridge nearby.
Yep.
It's, perfect lighting, couple TVs to where that's not the most visually appealing to a female.
Yeah, I had this TV we're currently looking at is used to be down in the living room. I used to rock the 2 TV around, when college football season would come around,
yes.
I'd rock the 2 TV setup.
I still feel like that's needed sometimes.
Dude, I love the 2 TV setup.
Yes, you can't argue.
Especially because, there's a ton of games that you don't need to listen to the commentary. You don't need to listen. You can just have that on mute, and you could be watching, whatever else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you play fantasy and the... now I'm trying to think of crappy teams this year. if the Patriots are playing... the Broncos, and you've got Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
or something like that.
And nobody else cares.
And no one else cares about that game. Then you can throw on, like, you don't even have to be watching another game. You can be watching a TV show, watching, whatever.
Or having Red Zone on one TV and then an actual game on the other. Or like, Chiefs, Bills on one TV and then just Red Zone on the other.
Yeah, like, hey, this other game kind of matters for where playoffs are going to shake out, but, like, I don't really care. Or, what's great with two TVs is you can watch a game you might not even care as much about, have that not muted, and if Robert Griffin III is commentating the game, the Oklahoma State Cowboys, you can mute him.
Yes.
And his dad comedy routine he tends to go into during every game.
Yeah, I honestly don't mind RG3, but he tries to make the most, like, weird, awkward, like, metaphors, analogies, comparison, like that. It just gets, it's almost like, it draws attention to him rather than the actual play. Like, the most badass play of all time will happen, one-handed catch in the end zone, and then he says something stupid and everyone pauses, like, what was that?
And it's so funny when you watch him. Like, the worst was obviously when he commentated the UCF game. Or was he the commentator on that game? I'm trying to remember. Now that I just said that.
I think he was, because I remember him posting, like, what's a good place to eat in Orlando?
Yeah.
I'm like, he's doing the
so
LSU
I think
game.
he was, and then, man, you would have thought, number one, because of how they were playing, how they whooped us, you would have thought every player on that offense was going first round.
Yeah.
The way they were talking. They're like, this guy's playing on Sundays, this guy's playing on Sundays. And I'm like, man, if half of UCF's offense is playing on Sundays, why did they finish 6-6?
Yeah.
Like the way, I mean, did you do any, like, prep for this? Or is it just they're catching the ball, boom?
Speaking of that, it is insane how, because everyone can communicate with everybody nowadays on social media, primarily X for me.
Yeah.
The recency bias of either dragging someone or claiming that they are the second coming of Jesus Christ from one performance is absolutely insane. Recent example, Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah.
Looked amazing versus Texas, and I'm not going to call out anybody, but we had a buddy saying that how would you take Caleb Williams over Michael Penix Jr. in your right mind?
Yeah. Which I think...
The recency bias after that game, and yes, they hadn't lost it, but if you watched any Washington football all year, you would know that Michael Penix Jr. wasn't doing that every game. You know that he definitely deserves a shot in the NFL.
Yo, absolutely.
He definitely deserves a spot on a roster, or at least an opportunity in training camp. Definitely a talent. Ball looks pretty, but they beat Arizona State like 13-7, I think, and the offense was not moving the ball whatsoever. Yes, Texas, that was awesome, but going into that national championship game, everyone was talking about Michael Penix, first of all, should be the first quarterback taken, top 5 pick.
Yeah.
Second of all, people were hammering the shit out of Washington. I was even guilty of thinking that Washington was the pick. But I sat there and I thought about it, and I sent a text in a group text we're in saying, the money's on the early money was on Washington. The line's not moving at all. I made that mistake when I bet on Alabama against Michigan. I think Michigan's the right play. I could see Michael Penix throwing a couple interceptions in this game, which he didn't start off as bad as I thought he was going to with all the hype, because they actually kind of moved the ball a few times.
Dude,
but Michigan was solid.
I'm not going to pretend to be this massive ball knower.
Yeah.
That's a term we love to use, and on social media, it's like they know ball.
Yeah.
I never played football besides a year of flag. I've watched plenty, but I don't try to be, some sort of expert. But when Washington moves 80 yards down the field, or 60 yards, whatever, from getting a kickoff into the red zone, all through the air, almost all exclusively through the air.
Yeah.
And then they get down there and they decide, we're a Big Ten team now, and we're just going to run between the tackles.
We are Iowa.
Yeah, we are Iowa. We forget the forward pass is allowed. We're just going to run between the tackles these last 20 yards. And they did it against Texas.
Yeah.
They did the same thing. They ended up with a lot of field goals against Texas because of that, or going for it. And
I think I tweeted it against Texas that Washington needs to throw the ball in the red zone, because they kept driving right down the field and then struggling.
That drive towards the end of the second half where they moved it exclusively through the air, and then they got down to about the 5.
Yeah.
3 times, three runs, one to the end, or a QB designed run for a QB who doesn't run much, a couple outside runs, and didn't do anything. Go for it on 4th and 5 at the goal, 4th and goal from the 5. Throw it, touchdown.
Yeah.
And that's one case. But you're just like, man, I know you guys want to have a more balanced game, but you are stalling out your own drives because you're not balancing. You're going all one, then all the other.
Yeah.
It's like mix them up.
So on the Michigan side of the ball, I was like, man, why would they ever pass? Because they are running it right down their throats.
I think Portnoy tweeted that like the first quarter when that guy who hadn't scored since like their Rutgers game.
Yeah, he just broke off a like 50-yard touchdown run.
He had 2 rushes for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns at that point. It was like, yeah, why would you ever risk putting the ball in the air?
No, it was a fun game to watch. For whatever reason, I don't claim to be some betting genius. I've actually learned, keeping track of my college basketball bets, that I am the definition of a coin flip bettor.
Yeah.
I think after like 210 college basketball bets, I was like 106 and 104, I think, which is... I mean, if you actually are talking about the juice that Vegas gets, if you're 50-50, Vegas still makes a little bit of money.
Making money.
I'm like down units, even having a winning record. So that's the definition of a coin flip bettor. But the bowl season, college football bowl season, I had like a streak of 7 wins in a row. And it's kind of funny because I tweet my picks every once in a while. Honestly, I tweet something that kind of shows you where I'm leaning each game that I'm going to watch. So like Arizona over OU, Arizona OU over. I was on K-State. I was on Missouri. Obviously on Michigan for the national championship. Yeah. But I was on a little streak there to where I started to get a little bit cocky. But one thing that I've learned is that if you reach, Vegas teach, so never increase your units. Bet the same units no matter what. This to all my fellow degenerates out there. Although I've been hot, I have not increased my units. It's paid off, but I know if I continue to bet NFL playoffs, college basketball, try to stay hot, if I chase, I'm just going to go right back down to where I was at, give it all back. So I guess I'm just using this opportunity as a wake-up call. For anyone else who's hot out there, do not reach because Vegas will teach.
Well, it's like when you're playing blackjack and the shoe gets hot, but you realize it a little too late.
Clockwork.
Because after one win, you're like, 2 in a row is... I'll throw an extra. You kind of ladder. Yeah. You kind of ladder bet a little bit.
Yeah, you can press. Like you can make a sound decision to press when you feel like the shoe's hot.
Yeah.
But whenever you're like emotional, looking, let me bet 10 times any bet that I've made this entire time.
Yeah, you can go 1 unit, 2 units, and I mean I'm in our group of friends. I'm famously not a sports bettor. I do like paying attention to it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's an interesting business.
Well, dude, I said this. I think I've talked about this on here. During the last election, now we're getting political, by the way. No, during the last election, turn on Fox, turn on Fox News. Trump's winning. Trump's basically got this locked up. Turn on, CNBC, MSNBC. Oh, Biden's got this locked up.
Yeah, but we're giving Pennsylvania to Trump. We think Pennsylvania's leaning Biden.
Yeah, with 1% reporting. But if you follow the betting lines. Like all those people have an agenda, but if you follow the betting lines the election, they got no agenda. Or they do have an agenda, but you know exactly what it is.
Yes.
It's to make money.
Correct.
So, I expect a lion to be a lion, expect a snake to be a snake. That kind of thing.
Yep.
So you know exactly what they're going for, and so you can kind of get away all the BS, and you know what you're looking at a little more. So it's fun to look at the lines with OSU games. It's like you see us favored by a decent amount or not by enough, and you're like, oh, okay, like they know something, whatever. But I had a decent little end of the last year or end of the football season and bowl season on some pick'em stuff. Mm-hmm. So I was down to Houston for the game, for the OSU game, doing some Pokes with a Purpose stuff with them.
Good cause right there.
Good cause. So we're driving around with the guy who runs Pokes with a Purpose. Great dude. And he's like, Scott, you're young. You play fantasy football. Fill this out for me. And hands me a pick'em sheet for that week for college football.
Right.
So it's like, you play fantasy football.
You play fantasy football. Pick these college games.
Pick these college games. And I don't think, if I remember right, there weren't spreads.
They were just pick'em.
They were just
winners.
Pick'ems. Yeah. So that makes it easier. But it was 12 games. He hands it to me. We're just in the car on the way to somewhere. I pick them all. He changed one of mine when he turned it in. I went 9-3. He changed one of my losses to a win, so he went 10-2. And I was like, oh, cool. One off, nice little, that was cool. And he remembered it. So he gets my number, texts me the following week, and he's like, hey, I'm in first place. It's the last week. Be because it was,
What do you think?
You know, hey, like give me these ones. Fill it out again, 10-2. So I was feeling pretty good,
Yeah.
but not enough that like it was like I just knew the right amount.
Right.
I wasn't overthinking. I knew enough, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then bowl season comes around, and my dad knows. My dad was there when that was all happening, so he was like, "Hey, you did so well picking for Steve. How about you do my bowl picking for me? I don't want to do this." So it was like 31 games of all the bowls. You're supposed to pick 12 plus the playoffs and the championship, and this was spreads. But the spreads were picked back in like December 4th, and it was due like December 18th.
Yeah.
So I just went in and looked at all what the adjustments were.
Right, and you write the adjustments.
And I wrote the adjustments. So, picked all 3 playoff games correctly. It wasn't spread on the championship, obviously.
In the bowl games, the lines move drastically due to opt-outs and things like that. So it could be a 10-point different line than what you're picking on that sheet.
Like I think Rice was favored against Texas State, and then what's his name? JT Daniels.
Yeah.
Retired.
Yeah.
full on.
After like 7 years.
Retired from football.
Which I can't talk. We're Alan Bowman supporters.
I was shocked to learn he's only about to turn 24.
Yeah. Yeah,
because
me too.
I would have figured he was literally 25, 26 almost, the way it's going. I mean, 7 years.
Yeah,
I
think he's just young for his grade, and then a seventh
he's
year.
a March, so that's March. You can be
decently, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm a March
so he'll
too.
be
So
a 24-year-old graduate, like leaving college, moving out of Stillwater.
Yeah, which doesn't sound as crazy as 7 years.
You know how many SAEs moved out of Stillwater at 24?
Hey, they got some great MBAs from Oklahoma State. No, but to finish it up with
I have a bunch of SAE buddies. If you're listening to this,
my cousin,
no hard feelings.
My cousin was their president at one point when I was there. So, no, I got second in his pick'em, and it was like $100 entry.
Yeah.
So I think if Washington, I was gonna get second no matter what. First had first locked up. If Washington won, I was gonna get we were gonna win like $650 because of all the ties, and then if Michigan won, we were gonna tie with fewer, and we won, and it was $900.
Right.
So I was like, dang, I'm not too bad at this.
It's pretty solid.
Out of 15 games, I ended up with 22 points, and wins were 2 apiece. So
nice.
It was solid. It was fun, but it kind of confirmed to me that I'm pretty close to coin flip as well, because I filled out all 31, and I think before the championship I was 16-31.
Right.
So I was 16-31 with heavily adjusted lines.
Right.
I'm good where I am.
Yeah.
I need to if I went like 60-70%, I'd be like, maybe I should get into this shit.
Yeah, so the inexperienced, untrained bettor would see the success side of that and think like, oh, I'm going to get into this, and just start wagering large amounts of money, thinking they're smarter than Vegas. And you reach, Vegas teach, they lose their money, anxiety, credit card debt,
divorce, alcoholism,
lose the kids,
early death, fired.
Yeah, be careful out there. Hey, having a strict unit scale is one of the best things that I've ever done. And I want to address one thing. Some of you ask, like, oh, don't you live in Oklahoma? You shouldn't be able to gamble since it's illegal in Oklahoma. Well, there's this thing called the highway. I will occasionally drive to Kansas. Sometimes I will phone a friend to have them place a wager for me, that sort of thing. And sometimes you just do a friendly wager with a buddy.
Those are always fun.
So there's multiple avenues. Like, people have been betting for centuries. And even the state's trying to get it legalized. They're trying to figure it out.
Have you watched any movie set in New York for the last 40 years? Everyone has a bookie.
Yeah,
everyone has a guy.
That's one of America's longest traditions.
It's like the second oldest profession.
Yeah.
The oldest profession is prostitution.
Right.
The second oldest is bookie. And whatever that looked like.
Which you got to think, people who are in the bookie business, are you a little bit nervous whenever sports gambling becomes legal?
I think it's like when weed was legalized, that people, you're probably limiting your market share a little bit, that people who were never going to go the illegal route might now get into it.
Right.
But I feel like you're still always going to have the people that would rather do it through you.
Right.
Because especially with the way Oklahoma's presenting it, and the juice on there that's kind of different from some other states. I don't remember the exact amounts, but I remember at Indian casinos, you'll get the juice is 5%, and then outside on apps or private casinos, it'll be 10 or something. So I think avoiding that, people are still going to do it.
Yeah, and it's also, there's a difference in the betting world where these legal sports books, you have to take money from your checking account, deposit it into the sports book, so it leaves your bank account, and then you can place wagers. So some might view that as a more responsible way to bet, because you can manage how much you're betting rather than just like, because if you're just telling a bookie like, oh, I want $5,000 on Washington, and then you just owe a guy money and that a lot of you might not have. That's when people get in deep shit. When when the money has to exit your bank account, the wife has to say, "Hey, what the fuck was this?" And like, that's when you can responsibly. Just wait. It's gonna get back in there. It's gonna double. Don't you worry. Now, I feel like that's a lot smarter way to bet.
John Wei Lee is gonna whoop
some people might
Zhang's
prefer placing the wagers without having to front the money. So where if you win, you just get paid without having to provide anything.
I mean,
up
there's
front.
definitely like there's definitely a psychological effect to that. It's like paying cash and using a card.
Yeah.
Like when you pay cash for something, if it's $10, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That's $10.
Yeah.
You buy something $50 and it's just swipe it, whatever.
Yeah.
But dude,
that's a good point.
I heard a story. So a guy I went to high school with, he's a few years younger. I'll leave the things that identify him out. But he's a couple years younger. Good kid. Went to OU, like some people we know, kind of started a book. I don't know exactly how he started it, if it was just friends. I don't even know what that looks like. Starting capital-wise, what you really need is you just hope everyone loses enough at the beginning.
That's not a good way to start at all. Just hoping everyone loses, not being able to pay anybody.
Or else it just doesn't work. Like, I don't know how much runway you need.
Yeah.
Or if you just limit everyone to like $10 bets for a while, and
I would imagine
20
like
year.
If you start out with 20 guys with a $500 limit, like I would probably have a few grand at least
for sure
to have ready to roll.
But then it's weird too, because then until you're established, you can't like are they just gonna say like are they just gonna not pay you because they're like your buddy in like the fraternity or something? But regardless, so find out he sold his book to some other dude. I don't think it was at OU. I think it was like some guy in Dallas or something like that. But like sold his book for like, I'm pretty sure it was in the realm of like $250,000 to $500,000.
Oh my goodness!
Like, and I think it was installments, so it was kind of parsed out. Which obviously that guy's probably hoping the book ends up kind of paying for that. So it's like a seller carry almost on a note.
Yeah.
Which is, something in the banking world that's pretty common. But I was like, I just heard stories. They were like, yeah, I've been talking to him. He's being stupid. He's spending all this money. He's talking about like private jets, like chartering private jets. And it's like he grew up with decent money too. So it was kind of shocking. But at the same time, dude, he just got handed $250,000, $500,000, whatever it was.
Do you have to like launder that money?
But probably. Funny enough,
buy a house.
I don't know what he's done with it, because $500,000 cash doesn't buy you a whole lot in the sense of that pays for your groceries. This was in a movie recently. $500,000 cash that's not clean. You've got decades of your gas, your groceries, and stuff like that. But you can't go buy a house. You can't go buy a car. There's a lot of things you can't do with that because questions get asked.
Yeah.
In fact, anything over $10,000 that's deposited into account gets flagged and checked. But funnily enough, you can also on your taxes declare money obtained illegally and be taxed on it. And there's a section of the
money obtained illegally
or found, or it's kind of a list.
I found this money on the grant. Is that taxable?
So they'll tax it, which is usually their biggest like depending on the amount. That's the thing they care the most about with that money, because a lot of those people are small fish, and so they're really not worried about like busting a small drug operation unless they're trying to get to a bigger guy, or busting a small gambling operation unless it's a conglomerate or something. So that you can declare that you made that money illegally. There's a section on your 1040 and you get taxed on it, and they're probably high enough amount. You're probably gonna get some questions asked. Yeah, that's a way you can do it, and you don't actually have to wash it.
So, if you say there are probably some questions asked, they say, "Oh, where did?"
Well, there's not on the return. I don't think you really have to state like where you how
you have to rat your bookie out and report your taxes.
I don't think you have to do that, but yeah, like there's
rat out your drug dealer on your tax return.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if someone at the IRS picks it up and audits you, and they're like, "Hey, what the hell is this 500,000?"
You're like, I sell marijuana. That's where it came from.
I'm a male gigolo. How I use my body is my choice. But no, I just remember hearing that, dude. I was like, that's fucking crazy. Like, I know a lot of people that, I know a few people that do that are bookies or that have that. You never know to what degree. Because like you know what you and your friends are like betting or losing, but you don't know how many they've got. Mm-hmm. And like also the risk of selling something like that for the buyer as well, in the sense of like, these are all and I don't, like I said, I don't know if there's no way it could have been just another guy at school. It had to have been someone else.
Right.
But for that kind of money, but like, what if everyone just goes somewhere else? Yeah. Like, what's the guarantee that any of those people are going to be sticking around because it was their buddy before and now it's, Joe somebody in another city running it?
Yeah, man, that conversation about what's taxed, like, it is insane. Like, everyone knows it. I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know, but you're taxed on money that you make. Mm-hmm. So you work 40 hours and the government gets like 8 of those hours. They get paid for like 8 of those hours.
Yeah, they get about a day, yeah.
Yeah, they get a day of your week. Yeah. They get paid for it. For not doing anything. I don't remember the government working those hours. I think that was a tweet that I saw. And then
they weren't there grinding.
The gas that you purchased to drive home from work, you're taxed whenever you purchase that gas. You're taxed whenever you buy a house. But then when you sell a house, you're also taxed on the money you make from that. It's like every dollar just funnels back to the government. Don't forget,
your house is taxed every year.
Yeah, just for having it.
For having it, your property, and they set that. They will reassess your property value. If like property values recently have gone up, they reassess mine every year.
And so you could get taxed more because they say...
But I haven't sold my house yet. So my house might be worth X today, and if I sell in 5 years, it could be worth less, but I paid tax on it being
worth more.
Yeah. It's ridiculous, it's like an unrealized gain being taxed, which is something that does not occur right now.
Yeah, my cousin, a couple years ago on Facebook, he had like a string of a few months where... instead of writing in his tip, because he would pay with credit card, instead of writing in his tip, he would say no tip, and he would leave like $15, $20, and he would say, "This is a gift, not a tip. A gift is not taxable," which is not true. A gift technically is taxable, I think.
Up to over a certain amount, it's taxable.
Okay, so he said a gift is not taxable, and would like write that on the receipt. This is not a tip. This is a gift. A gift is not taxable.
In that situation, I don't know how much that would hold up. But but yeah, I mean, there's gifts, and if they go over a certain amount,
the waitress's boss or waiter's boss probably made them like report it.
Dude, can I tell you something that was crazy? So I went to, when I was in Houston for the OSU game, I went to the Texans game the next day.
Oh, that's fun. That's a fun little weekend.
Oh, dude, it was a great weekend.
That's the kind of thing you talk about going into it, but then you're like hungover, and that doesn't sound like as good of an idea at the time.
Dude, I was very hungover. I was out with some professionals after.
Some professional like drinkers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like guys that would, put us under the table.
Right.
Which is no shame, I'm not. They got years under their belt. Mm-hmm. Like since we were in diapers, they've been putting down, all sorts of stuff. So we go to dinner after the game. We're going out. We're hanging out. My dad's like, "You ready to go home?" And I'm like, eyes closed and like I'm good.
Hell yeah.
So that next morning came real quick, real early. And my dad was like, "We're going to church for the game." I was just like, "Oh my gosh."
It's tough.
No, so it's tough. I know it was rough, and he's like, "I know that was hard, but thank you for doing it." I'm like, "All right, you're no problem." Just not for a little bit.
It wasn't for you; it was for the Lord.
Yeah, it was for the Lord. I was asking for forgiveness in there, but no. So we're at NRG. I go grab some food or a drink or whatever, and the typical little tip screen comes up like we see everywhere now, and that's a whole conversation. Yeah. So I go to hit it, and the lady stops me. And she was like, "We don't get those tips. Put 0." And I was like, first off, that's bullshit if you guys are not getting these tips. Second off, you're a real one because you just feel awkward. You know what I mean? Like you feel awkward hitting 0 or whatever. And she was just like, we don't get those. Put 0. I was like, done. You're like, hey, even if you got them, you're getting 0.
Yeah. Oh my! I saw a joke and it was like the bottom of the tax return, like tip amount.
Yeah, that Angus guy from Friday Beers had one where he was a cop.
Yeah,
and he was like, I need one more thing for you after getting a ticket,
holding the iPad.
Yeah, dude, I feel bad for the actual servers and stuff because like they've had
tips are getting knocked nowadays.
Yeah, dude, like because everyone's like there's like tip fatigue, I think is what they're calling it. Because like dude, like you grabbed a Gatorade from behind the counter and put it up there like. Do I really need?
Yeah.
Like I'm not tipping 20% on that. Like I'm sorry. I don't know if that makes me a dickhead. I'm sure there's plenty of like discourse after it. Like I do tip servers. I tip servers, bartenders well.
Yeah,
if I'm being provided a service, I do.
Get paid like $2 an hour or something like that. But my favorite's the Stone Cold Steve Austin meme with the wide open eyes, where it's like the Starbucks barista.
That's Kurt Angle.
Really?
Yeah, that's not Stone Cold, dude. That's the wrestler Kurt Angle.
I thought that was Steve Austin.
No. The one who was like out in front of the house.
Yeah.
That's like more recent.
Bro.
That's Kurt Angle.
Am I the only one who thinks that Steve? Am I just a dumbass?
Do we want to live get some reactions of who they think this is, who everyone thinks this is?
Yeah.
In the group text, and we'll.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, send that picture.
All right.
But what I was going to say is my favorite meme is that meme. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. The bald dude with the wide open eyes saying the Starbucks barista when I don't tip after he heats up my my sausage, egg, and biscuit or something like that. Scott's not listening, everybody.
I'm listening. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, okay?
Yeah.
So that's Kurt Angle. Do you know who Kurt Angle is?
No.
So
I feel kind of stupid right now because that meme's been a thing for a few weeks now, and I was just like, oh, that's Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, so Kurt Angle was, I don't know where he wrestled collegiately, I forget. It wasn't Oklahoma State. But he was a collegiate wrestler, international wrestler, beat like this Russian dude in heavyweight at the Olympics who was a world beater. Like he coming in, it was like the lines on that would have been him winning like minus 4,000, like him to win the gold medal. The other guy, the Russian guy.
Okay.
Kurt Angle breaks his neck either the semis or in the finals and wins.
Really?
Against this guy.
Damn. So how did you know that was? Have you just always known who he was?
No.
Or did you find out?
I do know who he was. I did know who he was. Didn't really know what he looked like since I've seen pictures of him like from the Olympics. But
that makes sense
but
because
in the video that the meme comes from, he says like I'm Kurt Angle. And so I saw
I've never seen the video.
I saw the video at one point, and that's why I was like, oh, that's Kurt Angle.
See, I know what Stone Cold Steve Austin looks like. And I knew that didn't look like him, but I just thought, like, whenever I make a stupid-ass, silly face, sometimes it doesn't look like me either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, if there's a picture of me, like, with a hat on, I don't know. I thought it was just Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it didn't really look like him because he was making that stupid-ass face. I don't know. Maybe I'm an idiot.
Weirdly, Kurt Angle's nephew-in-law, I guess, is John Bernthal. The guy who plays, like, the Punisher, and he was in Walking Dead. It's this dude.
Oh, okay.
He's been in a bunch of stuff. I guess that's his fucking nephew.
Huh.
But yeah, I think so. What I said is right. I started doubting myself there for a second. But yeah, he like broke his neck in the finals and still won. And so far the first reaction is Seth knew who he was.
Seth looked it up.
He said, "I know the gold medalist, true patriot."
That's proving that he just looked up a couple facts about who.
Unless he'd also
facts.
Unless he'd also seen the video, because I think he says like, "Hey, I'm Kurt Angle, national champ, gold medalist, WWE champ, or whatever."
Well, I simply just feel like I'm not as in the loop as I once thought that I was. I'm a pretty in the loop guy most of the time, and now I feel like.
But to be honest, like him being Kurt Angle doesn't fucking add anything to the meme. It's
correct.
It's not
just
relevant
it could
for the meme.
It could be anybody.
It could be Johnny Sins. It could be any bald guy with a beard. Like it's not that relevant. He's just clearly on a bunch of TRT his eyes are super bug-eyed in that. He might be on some other stuff, so I don't blame you for not knowing who he is.
Well, I'm glad that I know that is, so I can make fun of somebody else next time somebody says that Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Pay it forward. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I'm going to make somebody else sound like a dumbass whenever they say, like, oh, you know that Stone Cold Steve Austin move? Like, dude, that's Kurt Angle. Duh. You don't know that?
Yeah. Have you seen the video of the special needs kid who goes in the pool and the Stone Cold music is playing, and he's an older guy. He's like in his 20s clearly, and they're like, no, David, do not do what we think you're gonna do. He gets 2 feet in the pool on the steps. Stone Cold's music. He has 2 bottles of beer.
Oh, I think I have seen that. I think
just smashes them, and they're like,
oh no, oh god.
I mean, I've never owned a pool, but I mean, the no glass thing. Apparently, it's like a massive pain in the ass. You have to empty the pool.
Yeah.
Like it's a
brutal.
gigantic pain in the ass to deal with it. But I love that video, man. It kills me every time. He just looks like so pumped.
Yeah.
And he's holding still like the tops of the beers and the bottoms are just out.
And he's there's like a cousin or something hyping him up, like laughing, like, oh, he did it.
Yeah, Shane Gillis over in the corner.
Yeah.
just getting hyped about him.
Saw Shane Gillis for the first time live.
Dude, how was he? Have you been to Comedy Live before?
I never have. I've never seen like a stand-up comedy set other than when Patrick Blevins did his fantasy football punishment at the Bricktown Comedy Club. But I enjoyed it.
It's very different because I've watched a bunch of specials and stuff, but like the specials are they're the done project.
Right.
I mean, it's polished.
After they've toured a little bit on it.
They've worked on that stuff for like a year probably, and then they figured it all out.
Right.
Like they've got it all down pat. Seeing someone working through their stuff, which I don't know if we get as much of that here because they're still touring at that point.
Yeah.
But they're working through some stuff. Like I saw Theo Vaughn.
Oh yeah,
and it was totally different than his special.
Right.
And like his podcast, obviously, was different than that. But it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. 'Cause it was hilarious because you're getting new stuff you've never heard before. But there was also a lot more like, okay, what's the next joke that I have? They have to sit there and think about it for like 5 or 10 seconds before they like, okay, how about this one? And then they'll like say another joke.
They're just running through their playlist of like stuff they're working on and doing all that.
Exactly. And then at the very end, he did a joke, the grilled cheese, like with his Down syndrome
uncle.
He did the grilled cheese joke, and it was kind of weird because it was word for word mannerisms and everything exactly how he did it in the special. So he did that one for a year and then had it in the special, and then now it's a famous joke, so he like kind of finished it off with it because it's a favorite, and you're like, oh yeah, I saw him do that joke live, you could say. But it was kind of weird. I definitely enjoyed the new stuff I have never heard before a lot better.
I was out of town for that one, so I wasn't able to go, but that would have definitely been down to see it. I want to go to more of those things. Those are fun, and getting to see him work through stuff is cool. It's
fun doing something different because everyone knows I'm a big country music guy, but doing something different like a stand-up comedy show was kind of refreshing to have like a new. Like, life gets repetitive sometimes, so when you do something kind of newer that you've never done before, you don't do very often, it's kind of refreshing. You're like, oh, this life thing is pretty fun. It's not the same thing over and over again after all.
Yeah, and did we get some good names?
Yeah, OKC, all the big names for everything.
I think my sister and brother-in-law came in and saw Bert Kreischer.
Yeah.
I think Tom Segura was in town.
Yeah, Bert, he did the Criterion, like, a couple years ago, and then this past year he did the Paycom Center with a bunch of guys.
See, that's one thing I think I'm out on. I say that having never done it.
What?
I don't think I'm into comedy at a massive venue like that.
Yeah.
Like, I get why they sell them because, like, you got to. But, like, I feel like the fun part is being closer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you want to see their mannerisms and everything. Like, you're just watching a screen or whatever.
Stand-up comedy is not a big production.
No,
it's literally just a guy talking to talking to people in a room.
Yeah.
When it's no longer a room and it's a big arena, I can see how that'd be a little bit different because you're like talking as if you're a performer rather than like a relatable guy.
Well, and then
I've never seen a show in a big arena like that, but I imagine that's kind of what you're saying.
And I feel like not everyone is like real big with like their personality up there. Like some of them just kind of like Chappelle just kind of talks up there. Right. He's not like moving around, jumping up and down, doing anything where that might. So I feel like that's kind of if you're in the Loud City, I feel like that's kind of lost on you.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of crowd interaction is out the window too, because some of the best parts of a stand-up comedy show is like the crowd like my TikTok For You page. A quarter of it now is like those stand-up comedians that are in just like a room in New York somewhere.
Dude, I love those. There's one guy's name. It's like Matt Bond or something. He's like a little bit darker tone, kind of longer hair than me. But he's the one who will just like. I think he's a little unhinged.
Yeah.
And like some German girl was like, "That's not very funny. You're not funny." And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. The German didn't like my Nazi jokes." And then he just like goes up. Or like one girl yelled at him saying something wasn't funny. And she's saying this mean shit, and he was like, "Lady, you're going in my suicide note, and everything you're saying tonight is not worse than what I've said 2 inches in front of the mirror to myself."
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit,
that's got to be difficult to be up in front of that many people and be funny. Like, it's one thing to be like a musician. Let's say someone's opening up for Co Wetzel acoustic show, and they're up there, nobody's really paying, they're just kind of talking. Like, you can just kind of play through that and just kind of get through it. Mm-hmm. Stand-up comedy, if it's just dead quiet, and nobody's laughing at all.
Well, did you watch the Golden Globes at all?
No.
Okay, so I watched the first 20 minutes or so. Do you know who Joe Coy is at all?
No.
He's a comedian. Apparently, I've seen some of his stuff. I haven't watched a lot of it. Apparently, what people have said is he's like probably in the top 3 biggest grossing comedians right now.
Really?
Like he's selling out arenas like a whole week.
Wow.
Like he would do Paycom 7 days in a row and sell it out. So he hosted the Golden Globes. I guess it was on late notice, and it was like that. It was seeing someone bomb in real life. Like
really?
Because I don't think he's like Kevin Hart.
I saw a lot of people calling for
Gervais.
Ricky Gervais. Yeah. I saw that saying like, "Oh, bring him back. This is way better than whatever this is."
Well, because he did his and like didn't care.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like
roasted people.
Joe Coy, like
I thought it was like a joke.
Yeah, like Joe Coy, like tried to teeter the line and like not anger everyone as much.
You can't teeter.
And so he would like say stuff and be like, "I didn't even write that one. That was the writers." When like it didn't get laughs and like,
I didn't watch.
You guys gave me 10 days notice. What were you expecting? And like saying stuff like that.
Trying to be funny by saying that.
Like talking bad about himself to like get them back or something.
Trying to explain why it's not funny while you're up there.
I know. So it was
not a good look.
No, it wasn't. That I wouldn't want to do that stuff though. It's like you do one thing. You either go for winning the crowd and like in a monologue of a award show situation,
right?
You like go for winning the crowd, so you just go heavy celebrities, good, regular people, whatever. We don't care about regular people or something like that. Or you win over the audience.
Yeah,
that's like at home, and you just bash all of them there. Which is what Gervais did.
Gervais was actually hilarious. 90% of the country thought it was awesome. There were people who were offended in the crowd, and those people are very loud and powerful, and so behind the scenes probably got a lot of shit from people who sponsored the people that he made fun of, and like it gets to the corporate level and that sort of thing. But if you're not funny to the public, it's not watchable at all. Like I don't want to sit here and watch this corporate, clean, know for sure it's not going to be funny bullshit. Like, why would I watch? I don't care.
Yeah, it's just like low hanging fruit and stuff like that. When
like
they're
Chris Rock, the G.I. Jane joke when he got slapped.
Yeah,
like, keep my wife's name. That was just must see TV. Yeah. I guess it ruined like Will Smith's life or whatever. And oh my god, dude, the Will Smith memes about how he's a little. I guess cuck is the word they call it.
Yeah, I think that is the
that's the popular word nowadays.
That is the term used for it. No, yeah, like watching someone not funny is rough, but like watching them just try to like appease some people by like going heavily. If you want to call it woke, if you want to just call it like celebrity or left or whatever, anything like that.
Anytime you use the word woke, you sound like a right, but it is the correct word.
But dude, at the same time, I don't like when people go up there that aren't funny and they're trying to make fun of like the woke people. Yeah. Because they'll do that and you're just like, are you doing this because you'll get 60% of the country on your side? And they're like, hey, he wasn't funny, but I agreed with a lot of what he said. Or, or they think it's funny just because they'll be like, transsexual. And they're like, like you say anything, you're like, you go Alphabet Mafia, and they're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
that is them. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's
So true.
That shit's low-hanging fruit, too. That's not that funny
it really
either.
is. I agree. It's
Because,
true.
like, you'll see
it's not just about being mean.
Yeah, no, because there's some that are just mean or they're just trying to be shocking.
Right.
And they're like, I don't care about being clever. I'll just be fucking mean and I'll talk shit on a group of people that I'm in Biloxi, Mississippi. I say something bad about Joe Biden, transsexual,
Right.
California, whatever. They're immediately going to be on my side. And it's just like, it's not authentic. It's not, and it's just not funny.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, even when they're making fun of the people that I don't agree with even, and I'm just like, dude, at least be clever.
Yeah.
In college at one point, one of our good friends, Ransom Smith, had a girlfriend that we hated. We did not like her. He overheard me talking about me not liking her, and I was using some colorful language.
Right.
And he approached me. We were roommates. It was in my room, and I didn't realize he was home. He approached me. He's like, I don't appreciate you saying that. Like, that's my girlfriend. I know you guys don't like her, this and that. And I was like, dude, I don't like her. I'm not going to apologize for not liking her. I'll give you this. What if I can only be mean if it's clever? And he was like, yeah, I'll agree to that.
Okay, I like it.
So I had free reign to,
as long as it was clever,
not to her face. Obviously, I'm not rude.
Yeah.
But around the boys, around the people, I had free reign to talk shit on her if it was funny and clever, and not just she sucks.
Right.
Which I thought was a great middle ground.
Yeah, no, that
to
is a good middle
find.
ground. Yeah, because that is a good point, that just being just straight up a dick is not very funny.
Well, especially,
but whenever you're clever and you make people laugh and nobody's offended about it, it's actually a clever, not targeting at any specific person for any anything like that. It's just the cleverness of it.
And you got to be able to laugh at yourself or the group of people that you represent.
They'll come after you hard.
Dude, if you can't laugh at yourself, and it's so obvious when they can't, like when they turn it, when the Epstein stuff's going on and they're like, Biden's on there, Clinton's on there, and they're like, Trump's on there, like, no, he wasn't, he was exonerated. And you're like, he kind of fucking was on there.
Yeah, but if you're claiming this other guy was on there because it wasn't specified that he did anything wrong, then you have to also include.
Yeah, it's like it goes both ways, and it cracks me up. But stand-up's great. I think it's in a good place. I guess I don't know if they've always done this, but there was a Golden Globe for best stand-up special.
Really?
Yeah, Gervais won it. But there was a lot of ones that I hadn't seen. It was like Amy Schumer was on there, Wanda Sykes, a couple other ones. They were.
Yeah, a lot of those stand-up comedians. It's kind of what we talked about. Like, it's not funny either way. They have a whole special just making fun of Donald Trump. They're like, the Orange Man. Oh, God.
Well, dude,
small hands.
Dude, the Kimmel stuff. I guess I don't know if it was when Trump was in the White House or when he was running, but Kimmel, the first 10 minutes of Kimmel's show. Every single night. We're political. Yeah. And I guess someone from Donald Trump's camp reached out because Kimmel was saying stuff about Trump being a pedo, Trump being incestual, Trump and his kids killing his ex-wife, and a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, just some far-fetched.
And so someone reached out and was like, hey, cool it. And then I guess the next night Kimmel did 20 minutes just bashing.
Right.
And then that all got brought up because of the Aaron Rodgers thing. Aaron Rodgers just Bet Kimmel's not looking forward to that list coming out.
The Epstein list coming out. Dude, it's so crazy because obviously I think they do Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays on the Pat McAfee show, so it's every Tuesday Aaron Rodgers comes on. And dude, Aaron Rodgers is not holding back. Today, there was 5 minutes straight of him talking strictly about that situation. And McAfee's sitting there trying to kind of laugh some things off.
He's like, man, I work for ESPN. I work for Disney.
Some of the best memes are AJ Hawk, and it's the Stonehenge.
Dude, the Stonehenge every time. I never hear that guy talking. Every time I see a clip, it's just him puffing on a cigar.
Yeah, no, but it's funny because Aaron Rodgers is literally just on there speaking his mind like he's allowed to do. And it's kind of funny that it's on ESPN, but the outrage on Twitter is so hilarious just because people fucking hate Aaron Rodgers just because they're claiming he was anti-vax, although he's not telling anybody to not get the vax. He's just do your own research. I don't have to get it if I don't want to.
Yeah.
But they're saying, you anti-vax, MAGA weirdo. And then Rodgers is like, I'm not a MAGA guy.
Yeah.
I'm just literally just saying, I'm out here joking around. I think, Kimmel's a piece of shit.
Although you spend 15 years or however long his career was in Green.
You can do whatever you want.
No, but in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You're probably going to be floating that way.
Right, but I also thought you were going in the direction of he's 40 years old now, made so much. He doesn't have anyone to please or try to. He's not trying to win anybody over.
Dude, me and Kate were talking about that the other day. About she's a Chiefs fan, has been for a very long time. I want to get that out there. She is absolutely not a bandwagon fan.
Good.
She's got a
Okay.
Jamal Charles jersey in the
Way to defend your
over
woman.
there. Hey, no one is. She went through some crappy years as a fan. So I don't want to take that away from her. In this kind of mini dynasty they've had.
Right.
But she was like, "Do you think Travis and Taylor, as in Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift?" She's like, "How do you think they hang out? Like, how are their hangouts? Like, she's been famous for so long.
Since she was like, what, 15?
And when you're famous for that long, like, you just lose normalcy. There's just no way around it. And we were talking about that, and the difference with athletes is they don't have, like, Taylor and all famous people, for the most part, have to appear likable. They have to appear relatable. They have,
hair done, makeup done.
Yeah, they can't ever look bad. They have to be relatable and
they
likable.
also have, like, bunch of corporate backing that they're having to
they have
uphold.
to keep happy, but like they just lose all this normalcy. They have a lot of yes men and women around them, and athletes don't have to do that. So like the fan interaction between like athletes and fans is so different than fans and like Taylor Swift or any other pop star or actor or actress, because like her job is basically make everyone think without ever meeting her like she's their best friend, or like she genuinely cares about them, and I'm sure she does to a degree. But like, have you ever heard the term like parasocial?
Yeah.
So like happens a lot with podcasts, right? Where you've listened to, two guys talk for 1,000 hours over the course of a few years, and you're like, I know these guys.
Yeah.
We have inside jokes.
But then you see them.
I know, they got married recently. They had a kid recently. Like I know all this stuff
Who they
about
root
them.
for.
Yeah. I know all this intimate knowledge about them and like these inside jokes and all this, and you're like, we're friends. We're friends. And it's like, you're not. You've literally never met them. They probably responded to your DM on Twitter like once.
Right.
And you're like, dude, we're basically
like
bros.
if you saw Big Cat at Target.
Yeah.
You couldn't just be like, "Oh my guy." He'd be like, "You weirdo!" Like, get away from.
But it's them who it happens to the most. It's like the podcasters, and that's
people feel comfortable,
or like streamers because they're sitting there interacting with like the chat and stuff.
Right.
Athletes don't have that. Like athletes, it's very much like you were there. They are these other people out there better than you at this game or whatever, and they don't have to really appear likable.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they could be known as a heel and be known as like a dickhead and kind of the villain and make a whole living doing that, getting big contracts because the business side is what do you do on the field?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are you too big of a distraction? Then that brings some of, a little bit of that into it. But like other than that, it's literally just them out there playing. So I'm like, Travis is still normal for the most part, from especially what it appears in the New Heights podcast. But you're like, Taylor, not anything to her fault. You've been famous for 16, 17, 18 years, whatever it is.
Yeah, my theory is that's probably why she likes him so much. Might even say loves at this point. And it's because
Karma is the guy on the Chiefs.
She sees, that's kind of cool. You see this, or she has this guy who is very well known, famous. So he's up to the caliber in that regard to where she can date him. Yeah. And she doesn't have to like hide because it's a normal guy who doesn't want to be like whatever. But at the same time, I feel like he brings that sense of normalcy to the relationship that it probably makes her feel like she did whenever she was growing up in Tennessee or wherever she's from.
Yeah, those first few guys she was writing.
Correct.
Those first
like, this is a normal dude who's like, just driving home. He probably goes to the store in Kansas City. He doesn't have to have people do it for him.
Yeah.
And so she probably hasn't really been like, she's dating like John Mayer in the past, or like
John Mayer, Harry Styles, one of the Jonas Brothers.
Guys who can't go to the grocery store or even be seen in public.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal, like massive A-list celebrities.
Yeah.
And like at best, there's probably, for the demographic spread, there's a handful of athletes that really classify as like A-list to most demographics. Taylor, she's A-list for every demographic.
Yeah, she's
everyone
like Kim Kardashian.
Everyone knows who she is.
Taylor is
Kim's on Taylor's level. Let's Taylor.
Okay, I thought you were saying Taylor's not on Kim's level, but no,
Taylor.
I think they're both on the same kind of level.
I do not want the
as
Swifties out after us.
No, that's a good point. They're everywhere.
There's one in this
if
house.
there is a maximum level of famous, You have like Taylor Swift, Kim Kardashian. I mean, who else?
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
I mean, my mind Jay-Z, Beyonce.
Yeah.
My mind immediately
Bradley Cooper.
My mind immediately goes to musicians and actors and actresses.
Michael Jordan.
He's surpassed it. He's one of them. Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi. You know, for most people, at least
Drake.
Probably Drake's for sure up there.
Yeah.
You know,
Which he'll be in Oklahoma City here.
Yeah,
couple weeks.
Yeah. I'm not going. Kate and her sister and her niece are going.
Travis Scott's there. He's dating Kendall Jenner or Kylie. He was dating Kylie for a while.
Timothy Chalamet is dating Kylie Jenner.
Did you see the deal? Was that the Golden Globes where Selena Gomez went up to Taylor Swift and someone else and was like, I tried to take a picture with him and Kylie said no, and then someone was like, Timothy?
Yeah.
And then Taylor Swift's like, oh my God.
Yeah, no, like Timothy's dating.
It's crazy that little interaction is like blowing up.
Oh, it's massive.
Like, why does that even matter?
I know. But like, no, that's where my mind goes with A-list is like those kind of people, because they just, music and movies kind of go through demographics. Right. They kind of surpass, like, NFL football is a pretty specific demographic.
Like, it is beer, wings, 2 TVs in the living room.
Yes, it is this room currently.
That is the NFL demographic.
For sure. So it's like
guys doing podcasts at home talking about sports.
Hey, we've had some range in this one.
We have, dude. We have taxes.
We went taxes, illegal gambling, football, Taylor Swift, Timothy Chalamet.
I think we're setting a good precedent for 2024, because that's kind of what started this thing. Musicians, athletes. I mean, I think the range of like the potential guests we can have on this thing is pretty wide.
It's the crux of Last 33.
We've had stand-up comedy.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had Sid on, man. I still follow him on Instagram.
Again. No, he's a good dude.
He was fun. I'd love to get someone like him in. Who was I thinking of recently that I'd love to get in? I would like to get George Stoya.
Yeah, I think he'd be good.
I would like to get George. If we got George and Eddie together, they might feel more comfortable. I mean, we've had Eddie on in the past. George and I went to high school together.
Yeah, that's right.
He was a couple years younger than me. I haven't talked to him in a long time. I'm not going to try to pretend like we were best friends in high school. We know who each other are. He beat me in 3v3 basketball tournament at Kelly.
I think Eddie's been on like 3 times. I think we could probably have him, because I'd like to have Eddie on again too. I think it'd be best if we had him on separately, so it's not just like a Sooner Scoop YouTube episode, and we could really get to know the person outside of like talking OU football. I think it'd be fun to address with George, because he interacts with a lot of like Twitter trolls. Yeah, for a little bit I kind of had a shtick going this season as like an as an Oklahoma. I even had some tweets today, but I do think that the majority of the OU's fan base talking about getting disrespected because you're not above Georgia and Alabama in the rankings. Like I call them out sometimes, but honestly, it's not that serious for me.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I 2 years ago even, I would respond to people and get an actual, like, angry argument. Now, I kind of see it for what it is. So I feel like I've matured in that way. I think it'd be funny to talk to George about that, personally.
Dude, I mean, talking to Eddie about it, but Eddie's been doing it for a while.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
He's a little
more, he's a little more.
But even he'll, like, call somebody a fuck stick.
He doesn't, like, he definitely still responds.
Right.
But I'm saying he now, I'm sure, especially working that beat for so long, you kind of let the stuff just beat off you like water.
Yeah.
The insults and all that. So that, he's more refined at. George, so before this, he was on like the Broncos beat, I'm pretty sure, in Denver.
That's right.
I can't remember if he was somewhere. He might have been at the Tulsa World before that. I can't remember exactly. I don't know his whole resume.
Right.
But it would definitely be interesting to talk to him about the difference between doing NFL and college and the adjustment of those people, because they've had some times where, like, they said, they had some backlash on like Lebby, saying this is not done deal, and then an hour later it was a done deal, and I'm sure they were getting good information from who they were. But
it honestly, and I hate that they were getting backlash about it, but it sometimes comforts me that they have to deal with the fucking lunatic ass OU fans too. Like, they're not all the same, because OU fans will turn on anyone, their own media, their own fucking players if they fumble.
Dude, Dylan
nuts.
Gabriel.
Yeah, they turned on him quick.
They turned on him on a dime.
Because there was rumors about him trying to get Caden Green to go to Oregon.
And then he ended up...
They are truly insane. And then they take pride. Like, someone will say, like, people hate us because we're the most passionate fan base, and it'll get like 500 retweets or something like that. It's like, you guys are bragging about being psychotic. Like, it's nuts.
Well,
and there are some good ones out there. I have good dialogue.
There
a
is
lot of the
more.
time.
There is way more good ones than bad ones. Like, it's not even close.
I don't know about on social media.
No, those are just the loudest ones.
Yeah.
On social media, it's different. Those are the loudest ones. Like, but for the
Right.
most part, like, there's way more reasonable ones than there are not.
Yeah.
It's just those are typically the ones that are reasonable, so they're not going, I immediately need to tweet at Dylan Gabriel, I hate you, you're dead to
Yeah.
me, kind of stuff.
You will never be a Sooner ever again.
Yeah. You're never welcome back in Norman.
Yeah.
It's like it's those ones that are the most entertaining, but they're definitely not the majority by
Yeah.
any means. But they get to see that, and it's like, you're right though, because Eddie just responded to one today that was the guy was like talking about Eddie or someone tweeted things are moving in the right direction. This is exciting stuff. This new DC and whatever. And some guy was like, "It's been 25 years since a national championship. I'm growing tired. I don't know how. I don't know how other programs like OK State even have fans that when they've never even had one." And Eddie's response was literally just like, truly the best fan out here. Like this guy is, I think it was that, or it was like truly a moron. I cannot believe people like this exist.
Yeah. No, it is nuts because here's the thing. I would do some questionable things for Oklahoma State to win a national championship.
Agreed.
However, my life is not ruined because OSU doesn't win the national championship this year. Yes, that would probably be the best moment of my entire year. But I have a great life outside of Oklahoma State football. They did, like, OSU basketball got their ass beat tonight by Texas Tech. That sucks. I'm disappointed, but it's going to be okay.
And dude,
I'll continue. I'm not going to be a Kentucky fan now because my team hasn't been very good lately.
And like, it's what makes sports great, dude. Like the down years. It's where, and this is clearly me coping because I've been an OSU fan for so long. But like, it's like I don't really see someone, if someone like the true bandwagoners or the like really fair weather fans, I just don't have any respect for them.
Right.
Because it's just like, dude, if you are not there getting your heart broken on some games and it ruined your day, it's not ruining your year or whatever, but it's like ruins your night. Yeah, the beers aren't as cold. It doesn't taste as good.
Conversations aren't as
animated.
Yeah.
But like, if you haven't gone through stuff like that, it's like, how do those wins even feel? Mm-hmm. Like once you have tasted that crappiness, of losing to a South Alabama and getting trucked by UCF.
It's true. So even the South Dakota State game next year is going to be pumped if we win.
I'm not overlooking them.
No, I'm not either.
But but like those make the Bedlam win feel so much better. They make Kansas State and Kansas this year feel so much better. Like you just have to have, life is not just a constant uphill. Like you have to have your peaks and valleys. Hopefully the lows aren't too low.
Right.
The highs probably don't need to be too high because you got to keep you humble. But like you got to have that, I think, to be a true fan, to go through those crappy years of praying for bowl eligibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
to enjoy Big 12 championship berths and things like
hopefully
that.
next season's one of the years that makes it all worth it. I think it definitely could be, but we'll save the Oklahoma State talk for the next one.
Yep.
We lost our camera. We lost our battery life on the camera. So
we've been going for a while.
Those on YouTube, you're probably looking at just a picture right now. Thanks for sticking with us,
Thank
YouTubers.
you.
And Scott Ritchie, I'd imagine, hey, I said New Year's resolution, first week we catch up on sleep. From here on out, we're recording every week, whether it's just us, whether it's with guests, whatever it may be, we're riding. So, Scott,
let's do it. I think one of these days we'll have to talk to the women in our lives, but I think that would be an interesting one.
Yeah,
to get the women,
that would be
see some of the other part of our lives. They're part of our last 33. That last 33.
Definitely are.
A lot of that is spent with them. So
a large portion.
I appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to a great 2024, and thanks everyone for listening. If you listen this long, we appreciate it, and
Love you guys.
Hope you like the range of topics.
Yep, absolutely. Peace.
We did go.